What is a specific example of the poor getting poorer? Specifically, everything. People have no idea how contrived the divide is and why every opportunity is taken to affirm and extend it. The ultra-rich have been going after the middle-income bracket for decades, but now all this useless technology we rely on to make us think we're empowered is dragging us down, not lifting us up. When that cohort is entrenched into a rental not ownership model, they go after the next tier up. They've already started. The West, or the global North, is under the cosh of a type of economic Nazism. You don't think Trump is there to make you rich, do you? People are getting caught in a debt cycle with check cashing places that charge high interest rates usury. People are getting involved in the criminal justice system for minor infractions. They can't afford bail, so they end up in jail and lose their job. They can't afford quality legal representation, so their punishment may be greater. They have small fines and/or administrative fees that they can't then balloon up with additional fees, etc., and can result in them going back to prison, even though debtor's prison was deemed unconstitutional decades ago. Overdraft fees. When rent is due on the 1st, electricity the 18th, the car on the 15th, internet on the 7th, and the credit card on the 27th, plus fitting and nutrition of some sort, you end up going over every so often. So you get charged $30 for being poor. Sure, you can call and get 2 or 3 of them reversed, after waiting on hold for an hour. But uh-oh, you had just put in $60 to cover that $30, but you didn't put it in soon enough and one of your bills cleared, so now you get hit with another overdraft. I'd say internships, especially in big expensive cities. Big companies get to pay peanuts for a group of fresh-faced graduates, then work them half to death in the name of providing experience. At the end they can pick the one they want, like. Of course, most poorer people cannot afford to survive 1 year on basically nothing. So internships are taken by the well-off who can live off the bank of mom and dad. It's like filtering out the riffraff. Raises to minimum wage. Minimum wage goes up. Poor people making just above minimum wage don't get a raise. People below the new minimum wage get a raise, but then the business all use it as an excuse to raise prices, so the cost of living for everyone on minimum wage goes up more than the raise they got. Same could be said about inflation in general. I just saw an article that states 17 of American dog owners gave up their dogs in the past year because they can afford to take care of them. For reference, there's 65 million dog owners in the US. So this accounts to millions of people and dogs who now no longer have one another in each other's lives because they're too poor. Poor people tend to buy lower quality items like clothing and electronics because they are less expensive. They usually break faster than the higher quality stuff, however. So, they end up replacing the broken items at a much higher rates than people who buys higher quality items. In the long run, they spend more money on things. Inflation. Rent increases that outpace inflation. 40 years of increasing productivity without increasing wages. Responding to inflation by cooling the job market, i.e. making more people unemployed rather than cooling price gouging, which accounts for more of inflation than increased employment. Playing Lotto in the hope they will win. Buying branded goods to show who they are. Buying the latest mobile, flat screen or gaming console. Buying little small things that clutters the house and they don't really need. Buying food because it is at offer when in reality they only eat one. A friend of mine is on ODSP disability, and was already just barely scraping by each month. In the last year or so things have gotten significantly worse. Dude is wasting away. He's down to under 115 pounds, and he's 5 feet 9 inches. Every month it seems like he has to starve for a few days to get by. Economy is bad, so minimal or no raises are coming out, but inflation has jumped up more than normal. Rent and housing prices have gone through the roof. Simple things like entertainment keeps going up, Netflix etc., and any saving we had from cutting cable has been lost by price increases. When well-off families can save and afford to give their children $100,000 for school or a house, then the price of tuition and housing goes up by $100,000 because those people are greedy and see that the average person can afford more. Everyone loses, but the poor most of all. The bank not letting you borrow money to either rent an apartment or buy a house because there's not enough, or you need to pass a specific criteria like how much you make, I think. Another is not being able to afford renting an apartment or buying a house with own money. You know, in many states that you can work a minimum wage job full-time and be considered over income for a lot of benefits. By the way, federal minimum wage in the US would net you about $1,333 a month gross pay before taxes. Average rent in the US is $1,700. Simple statistics of how much buying power one unit of your currency has in a period of 1,3, 5, 7, in 10 years. Relates to how much you need to get the same basic product. Now do statistics in the same time period for changes in income for basic salaries. Smiley face. A specific example of the poor getting poorer can be seen in scenarios where economic disparities widen due to factors like unequal access to education, job opportunities, or social services, exacerbating financial inequalities over time. When they reduce taxes on the rich, the poor don't become poorer straight away, but no doubt all those rich people getting richer and spending more will drive inflation. And don't give me any bollocks on trickle down. Cost of living increased by 31. Cost of food at 38. Government added a raise to the minimum wage, 1.3. Go figure how you're supposed to pay €200 a month more compared to pre-2018 with salary increase of €120 annual. Someone who can't afford to fix, inspect, or register their car, but still has to drive it to get to work gets a ticket and their car impounded. They then lose their job and can't afford to pay anything. The constant begging from 20 to 30 years olds looking for handouts from the government and corporations. We need to take care of senior citizens first. Please make sure Social Security and Medicare survive. Car insurance going up because you have an older car. But to get a newer vehicle requires either A down payment you can never afford, or B a monthly payment you can manage. Being too poor to afford decent quality items of any type, kitchenware, clothes, tech, vehicles, ed. Therefore causing them to purchase them more frequently, thereby costing them more overall. The government keeps printing more money, which devalues the currency, which means whatever money the poor have is now worth even less. Inflation is a tax increase on literally everyone. Payday loans with predatory interest rates. It's not that poor people don't know it's a bad choice, but it's poor people that are in the position to need payday loans. Food shopping in the inner city, where there are no supermarkets, only mini marts. Yeah, poor people pay way more for food. It's expensive to be poor. The past 3 years basically lol. I don't know how poors live in California and New York. You have to give up way too much to live here if you're poor. Poor tax when you see that guy walking to Dollar General to buy his groceries for the day because he can't go somewhere the prices are better. Getting a job that pays more money and then you go into a higher tax bracket and the extra income is all for nothing. The American dream. If the government gives poor people $100 while giving the rich $1,000, the poor just got poorer. That's how tax breaks fuel poverty. UK specific. But how you go to nearby towns and cities and there's many times more homeless people than there were 10-15 years ago. Wages for poor people have been nearly identical to 20 years ago, yet the price of everything has gone up exponentially. Them paying more taxes than the rich, because the rich owns businesses and they know how to play the tax game. Pretty much everything. Can't buy a really good work boots and you end up spending more on multiple pairs. The rent versus mortgage paradox so many banks love to use. Unless your salary goes up at the same rate as inflation, you are getting poorer every year. You get a raise, and the government cuts your food stamps more than the raise gave you. Giving money to preachers who say God will reward you with more than you have given. Raising traffic fines. Raising sales tax. All disproportionately affect poor more. Poor people make up the vast majority of people who participate in the lottery. Rent increasing 10-20 per year in my city, but wage growth has been stagnant. Inflated cost of living will degrade their quality of life dramatically. Overdraft fees. This guy's out of money. How dare he? He must pay. COVID. They jacked up prices but forgot about wages for the most part. A person with $5 going to McDonald's and buying a 2 for $4 lol. My mom works close to minimum wage, rent went up 10, wages didn't. Poor people frequently waste their money on liabilities. Prices of food getting higher faster than minimum wage.